apprenticeship for any young person can change their life.
I think, what could I have done?
Then you've got to make it the most safe environment it can possibly be, really.
When you better take Sam on or whatever, and you better put him through an apprenticeship.
We shouldn't need a bit of paper or a qualification to make us feel like we're enough.
I'm so bored.
Hi guys, welcome to Taylor Talks Trades. I'm your host, Jamie Taylor. Thank you for joining me today. Remember to hit subscribe so you can help us grow the channel and bring you more episodes like this one. In this episode, we are joined by Samuel Moore from Samuel Moore Roofing. He's taken us on his whole career journey from starting his own business to working in education, giving back and teaching the skills he's learned over the years. A big part of our chat is his experience growing up with dyslexia and how he didn't let that define him. It's really inspirational and I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get right into the show. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
I'll just start where I always start. How did you get into the roofing trade then?
Yeah, so I would probably say I want to go back to, obviously, because I think this resonates with a lot of people within, obviously, the trades industry. So from, this is a long way back, however, so from primary school to secondary school, going into secondary school, I could barely read or write. I remember getting took into the head office, however, by Mrs. Muir at the time, and she sat down with me, mum, and we had this discussion of where I was at. I got took out of my normal classes, put into obviously what was called B6 or whatever. It had a special name, but we won't go there. We did a load of tests on me. I was dyslexic. So there's 1 in 4 people within the in the construction industry that are neurodivergent. And I think obviously me being on there and doing what I'm doing now, however, I feel as if that also needs to be talked about, because school didn't quite work for me. I just couldn't see the benefits of it at the time, and I couldn't see the real world focus. But anyway, I got fingered with dyslexia. They had a little thing on and it always it comes out for me as a bit of when I was going up to this room or whatever, they had a wall of people there with who was dyslexic on there. There was Richard Branson. There was loads of famous people there. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But yeah, school wasn't for me. I came out with GCSEs, however, with there was no higher than a D or whatever. So I wasn't particularly academic as such. However, I did my works experience. However, whilst I was in school with a social housing provider, I did a week with a guy that was an old school kind of guy, and he didn't have a labourer there, and particularly on that. I was his labourer, I was doing all the stuff. He was even showing me, how to grout tiles and stuff. And I was in school, however, I was thinking, oh, this is great. And then, anyway, he went off holiday. The next week, I was put with 2 young lads, or whatever. And I was so bored. Jamie. So I had 2 polar opposites of works experience. I had a really good, I was able to do things, and then I was just if you can imagine, obviously with social housing providers, however, they have they don't get called lazy for they're coming from that council sort of background mentality, however, and I was this isn't for me, So anyway,
so you wanted to graft and get hands on and actually be learning.
Yeah. So my dad. So apart from there was that as well. My dad was a builder. So even in the school, in the summer holidays and stuff, when they didn't have anybody to look after me, he would take me in his van or whatever, and I'd just be on site with him on residential, sites, whatever, for a couple of days or whatever. So there was that as well, that obviously, you know, that that yeah, I suppose like, you know, that was like, you know, mentoring me or whatever, and like say, and then my brother, well, I came into roofing anyway, basically, long-winded story, I guess, but I got into roofing as my brother was a roofer, and basically, as I was leaving school, he was just starting up his own company. And basically, I did a few days with him. However, I particularly didn't know what I was going to do, or whatever. But anyway, I just started work with him, get a few, you know, pound notes in my pocket, or whatever. And then basically, his labour kept letting him down, or whatever. And then basically, my mum, like, sort of forced him into going, you better take Sam on, or whatever, and you better put him through an apprenticeship, or whatever. So anyway, he did. And basically, he put me through an apprenticeship at Newcastle College. And yeah, there was like, so I, like say, I've had my dad, like, you know, like say, growing up or whatever, my mum, like, you know, she had this little signs on the thing or whatever, and that is probably because I was a lazy, like, you know, teenager at the time, but she's like, don't count the days, make the days count or whatever. So I think I've had like some good, like, you know,
mentorship and guidance.
yeah. And I think my parents have always like worked hard. And like, you know, like say, my dad now works with me or whatever, but they've like, you know, they've got really good stuff, but they haven't got technically like, you know, basically my mum worked in healthcare and is actually now a cleaner, and my dad works with us as a builder and used to work in a factory. So like they've had like a bit of grit and determination to get what they've got.
Real working class background.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I thought it was quite interesting what you said. So I believe if in school they would teach us skills that we knew were going to be used in real life, like real working environment, I think that would be really helpful, because like you said, you were doing things but you didn't know where you were going to use it.
Yeah.
So if you know where you're going to use it, you can apply yourself to it better and think, I'll actually really need this skill later on. So I thought that was a good point that you picked up on.
Yeah, definitely. And when I was at college as well, like, because in our area in Teesside, so my brother came from a good reputable company. He used to, well, it was called WB Robinson's. It was a big company, and anyway, it got bought out by SARG because there were merchants as well. He worked on Eton College. So I had like a good apprenticeship, you know, that was quite a diverse one as well. Like, we were working on some social housing, new build sites. We're doing repairs, flat roofing, fascias, guttering, you name it. We were like doing it because you've got to do it when like, you know, there was only me and him or whatever. So like you've got to do all them things. So I had a really good apprenticeship that like I couldn't be more thankful for that. And also as well, like, you know, at the college as well, like I was coming back with stuff and I was actually able to show my brother what I was learning. I was even learning him some stuff that he didn't even know.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite surprising, especially with like these groups nowadays, or whatever. And I'll see some question on a group or whatever, and I'll look at it and I think, like, you know, if you'd have done an apprenticeship or whatever, you'd have known that.
Yeah.
However, and they're thinking, oh, like painting the batten ends or whatever, and like, you know, like we got told that when like 17 years ago, and somebody was thinking as if it was a new thing.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, did my apprenticeship, worked there for 7 years. Like, say we were working all over like the northeast, even in London. We were doing some like lead work down in London. And then basically I looked at like what my brother was doing, and I thought, you know what, I'll give that a bash, and set up like say Samuel Moore Roofing. And Like say, yeah. So basically,
How was your brother about that? Was he
oh,
all right?
he wasn't all right, was he?
Well,
Yeah. So I suppose we've got like total polar ends of the spectrum here, I guess, haven't we? So I think like when I was working for my brother, like I kind of knew, like if I was going to be working for him, like he didn't want to grow. He was happy doing, you know, like he got up to like a team of like 2 vans or whatever, which is sounding like But I looked at it and I was like, well, I did my apprenticeship and I was like looking for other stuff to progress my career. And obviously, I was looking for a pay rise as well as so. I was like looking at for different ways that I could obviously progress myself and whatnot. And then like say, obviously had a, and then I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give it a bash. He didn't take like when I told him, I said, oh, I'm gonna go self-employed or whatever. Yeah, I had a bit of like I was always a bit of a saver, saved up some money, however, bought a van, however, was just like still subbing him for a bit, however, until I put my name on my van, and then he was like, yeah, he's definitely going his own way. But when well, this is the thing as well, like say when I left or whatever, and I started advertising, there was some of his people, like there was some of his customers that would ask me to do the jobs, or whatever, and I turned them down, even though that I was like sat at home twiddling my fingers. I was like, well, I'm not gonna he's given me this opportunity. However, I'm not gonna take anything off my brother's plate, or whatever. He's got his own family to feed, or whatever. I'm still living at home with my mum and dad. However, I don't want to take any work. I want to stand on my own 2 feet and get my own work off my own name, off my own back, and not say that I've basically, hijacked somebody's company or whatever. Because you do see it nowadays as people work, like, you do see it in these big companies, or whatever, people work their way up, or whatever, to be like key accounts manager, etc. And they've worked their way up in big companies, and basically they'll set their own name up and take all the clients, or whatever. Like, and there's companies that when I first started out, or whatever, and I think looking back on it, or whatever, like obviously, it's been a bit of a slow burner to get where I've got now, but like, I can look back at it and say I've never burnt anybody's.
Done it with the right values, the right
Yeah.
ethics and morals, and
Yeah,
that counts for a lot more than anything, really.
I haven't took like any of my brother's lads or anything. Like say when people have come to me or whatever, and I've trained everybody, basically or whatever. So within the company.
Yep.
So yeah, and like say it's been like say so. I suppose there's a bit of a story to obviously the business or whatever. So we were moving, like say, so we were in basically in a centre as such, and then we went from my dad's garage to basically a workshop where we stored some materials and had a skip, etc. We got up to about, like say, I've always took on apprentices, and then like say, I've put people through, courses, etc. And we've built up a business. We were like about 4 or 5 people, or whatever, and then sort of like we were banging the drum in the Reg Cleveland area for basically. I was emailing politicians, just basically proper harassing people that should be harassed, really, or whatever. like to a sort of one sort of sense, or whatever. I don't think like sometimes like I think like there's a bit of a disconnection between like politicians and obviously businesses or whatever. And like I'd email them going, we really need like roofing in our area, because I could see that it was stunting our growth, because as such as like because I wasn't able to get like if you're asking a young person or whatever, and they've got the option of doing, I don't know, bricklaying or roofing, but they've got to do 2 weeks in Newcastle or Leeds, etc. People I was taking people on, however, for a couple of months, however, and then they were leaving, and roofing's not really for me, etc. So I could sort of see that that was a problem, and it was probably stunting our growth as a company because the work was there. We were having like 6, 7 months worth of work, like booked in, and I couldn't find a roofer. We were putting stuff out on Indeed, etc. And the people that were coming to us off, like, I was putting out for a qualified roofer, and the people that were coming, and I was asking them basic questions of like, oh, well, what gauge does a double Roban go on at, or whatever, and they'd be like, oh, well, I'll just do it at 13-inch all the way up, and he'd been doing roofing for like 20 odd years or whatever, and then what we do is we just equal the last 2 courses out at the top, and I'm like thinking, well, like some of my lads that within a year that I can do, like, that can do that, however, the basics, like, yeah. So I was like, do I really want to take somebody on, or whatever? And
those people are hard to change their opinions as well, aren't they?
yeah, they've been doing it a certain.
Trying to tell them to start doing it in millimeters and using max gauges and
yeah, like, and it's like, well, what do they don't know? And like I'm thinking, well, I'm going to be sending these people out to jobs, however, and they might have the skills there, but they don't have the knowledge to, like, why they're doing what they're doing, however. They don't even know, yeah, they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They've just been like going, oh, well, such and such told me that it was this way, however, and well, that way's wrong, however. So that kind of led, like, obviously, we got the, I was sort of banging the drum for, obviously, Redcar College, and sort of like COVID hit. We had a couple of people leave, like through like illness and well, probably like drugs as well, to be fair. Like, I don't think, basically, that's another, I think, another point, however, for, like, within our industry and in construction is, like, people have got probably, like drug abuse and stuff like that.
Alcohol and drugs and...
Yeah, like, I've had people come in and go, I've spent my full month's wages in 2 days or whatever. And I've spoken to the missus, and they don't even know where they've been for 4 days or whatever. And, like, and we've tried to do stuff the right way, like do counselling and stuff like that, and then people have left or whatever. That particular individual, anyway, I think it's gone working for another company now, and I think it's on the straight and narrow, which is good.
That's good to hear, at least,
We put, like, same thing again, we put him through his apprenticeship and stuff like that, and, things like that happen, don't they? Like you say, so we moved, so just before COVID, we moved into a bigger premises or whatever, and then we had a couple of people leave here. So it was a bit of a dark time, like we've moved into a bigger premises and then COVID hit, however, because I was wanting office staff, and we're still in the same premises. We've kind of like bundled our way through it, however, the business wasn't doing so well or whatever. And then, like, basically, like, say, we took on another two apprentices or whatever, and then basically, like, say, one of them, one of them fell off a ladder and broke his heel, and like, say, that sort of, like, I looked at it and like, say, a lot of people, like, there was nothing wrong. Like, there was scaffolding up and everything, and it was just a case of inexperience, for that person or whatever. And I was, like, looking at it thinking, oh, God, I've took somebody on here or whatever. And, it was a bit of a gut-wrenching moment because, like, I had a responsibility for that person. And like, even though that we did... like, we had a health and safety guy, we had scaffolding up, handrail, ladder was tied, all that sort of jazz.
Risk assessments, etc. It's all there, but accidents can still happen, no?
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, I was just like, I was looking at that and I was thinking, I was kind of like gutted. Like I was thinking, like I've got to speak to this lad's mum and dad or whatever, and I'm like thinking, you know, with all the, with all that there and that, and I was like thinking, what could I have done? And it's literally just boiled down to experience and whatnot, and yeah, like say it did, and then I was like thinking, oh God, do I really want to take on any more apprentices or whatever, or like because that could happen.
Because it's so risky, yeah.
Yeah, it's so risky. And like that could happen at any point in time or whatever. And there was a point in time, when I was first starting out that like, we wouldn't always have a scaffold up or whatever. And I think that's a big point to make or whatever. Like, I do see it on LinkedIn or whatever where, oh, look at these people or whatever and like and I'm like thinking, like, you want to judge, aren't you? But like when you're first starting out in business or whatever, like people are coming to you because you're cheap,
Yeah.
aren't you? You're cheap, you do a good job or whatever, and like say, if you can save a few bob on scaffolding, you would. Like say when I first, and then obviously that was like when I was first starting out, but like now, like so it really shook me like that how, like when like but now we don't operate like that or whatever. We've like say obviously as you grow or whatever you've got to put like you've got to think about people, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah.
As such. So
I know what you're saying though. Like in the early days, like you're just getting started. You've probably not really got like a big health and safety background. Because like if you've worked within a company, especially like for yourself working in your brother's company, which would have been a small business, you guys probably were really experienced and could take like maybe little risks. We'll be able to do that off the ladders. We'll no need a scaffold or something. But then when you start to then have people that you're in charge of and you're sending them out, then you've got to make it the most safe environment it can possibly be, really.
Yeah, exactly. So it sort of like took me into a bit of a dark hole, and then like I say, I probably like I was probably a little bit depressed to be fair, and then literally, well, what happened from that? However, I did my knee bosh, however, because health and safety, like knee bosh health and safety in construction. Like say I did that because I was like thinking, well, even with like a health and safety guy appointed, however, like you've got to be on top of that, however, kind of thing, however. So I did that, and to be fair, I was absolutely. It was probably a bit of a proud moment for me because. Like, yeah, we were doing it, and obviously I was in with a group of people from all sorts of backgrounds, or whatever, and as I just said there, however, anyway, like say there was people that have been to university, the managers in big social the heads of social housing providers and stuff like that. And anyway, I came out of that and I got a distinction and I got the best grade out of the class or whatever. So that was kind of a bit of a
turnaround moment when thinking of the beginning of the journey, like with the dyslexia and maybe going to that other kind of class, and maybe like you could have took that on as just a limiting belief forever, but
yeah, and I think that's like it shows you like how much somebody grows as well. Like, at the start or whatever, like even when starting out in business or whatever, like I think obviously I think now that I could apply something to like some knowledge to something or whatever, I think it just helped obviously my reading, my writing, and everything from that. However, and now that I could say that, like, I can read a lot better than anyone else. Like, I say anyone else, whoever. It's just really good. You know what I mean? It's like, it's normal or whatever. So
best reader and writer in
Britain. No, I was not to say that at all. But like, yeah, but anyway, it's good enough anyway. That's for like, it's good enough for what I need it to be, or whatever, and to get my, to do quotes and etc.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think even the fact that you started your own business, that's in itself is awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
And you find with like dyslexic people are neurodivergent, as you said, it's like you find workarounds, I think, for like something that you can't do. I think you can, they tend to find good workarounds, so good problem solvers, good at maybe, I'm not saying cutting corners, but just finding ways that, right, I can't do that, so, but I still want to have this done, so how am I going to do it?
Yeah.
And they can be very resourceful.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
I also think that getting an apprenticeship for any young person can change their life.
Definitely.
Especially if they have been dyslexic or neurodivergent, like you said. They then get this apprenticeship, and rightly or wrongly, it's a piece of paper that says you're qualified, you stuck something out, you can learn, you can focus, you've got something there. And we shouldn't need a bit of paper or a qualification to make us feel like we're enough. However, my experience is that it does make you feel enough, and then you think, what else could I learn?
Yeah. Like say,
Much like you went on to do the knee bosh and that as well.
And like from this, well, at the moment, however, like I'm also doing my level 7 senior management in construction.
Yeah.
I'm also doing my assessors award for the college as well. So I think it just goes to show you that obviously school isn't always for somebody, however, and like don't let the grades define who you are as a person. And I think there's a lot to be said for just like self-teaching yourself, however. And I wasn't a particularly good talker either. Like say, there was a couple of things that helped me within business. I was watching a lot of YouTube and stuff like, even like of like, you know, just how to small talk and like stuff like that, because people buy from, you know,
people.
Yeah, people.
But if you can't speak to them, they can't buy
yeah,
from you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah, so
good to hear.
We did BNI, however, and like BNI is a really good, I would say, a tool for somebody starting out in business. I've put people, you know, I've put my manager Ryan on it, and it's so good for like standing up in front of other people and talking about your business, however.
Even yourself a bit, just
even
this
yourself.
Is who I am. This
and
is
bigging
what my
yourself
does.
And bigging yourself up, because there's nobody else going to do that for you, is there?
It's nerve-wracking as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Going around that table and you've got to give like a 60-second elevator pitch almost of.
So yeah, we've I did find that very, very useful, and like sort of where the business I suppose if we go back to obviously where I was in a bit of a deep, like, you know, dark hole, I guess, or whatever, we like say 2 of my apprentices were at Leeds College of Building. Tutor reached out to me saying, "Oh, do you want to give teaching a try?" Like, you know, they're after a part-time somebody there, or whatever. And I thought, you know what, go on then. I'll have a dabble at that, because I was thinking, well, in one sort of thing, I was thinking, well, actually, you know, what about actually setting up like a training academy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I was thinking, like, you know, because some of the colleges were like, you know, I had previous conversations with Reg College and the head of construction there at the time was saying roofing's too niche.
Yeah.
However, it's unprofitable, like, to run, basically, and it kind of infuriated me, because I was like, look, like, I was thinking my business is kind of getting stagnant, because like I can't find anybody. It's only generally, you know, it's trying to find good skilled people or whatever.
Yeah.
And like,
if they're not there, they're not there. So you need to train them. You need to bring them through somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, say we were in this bloody room or whatever, and I was in the room with like the Regca's head of construction at the time, and he was like, "Oh, roofing's niche," and I was like, "How is it niche? Look out there." Like, every building's got brickwork, and it's got bloody trusses on, and it's got a roof on it, or whatever. It's not niche.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere, exactly. Like, so yeah, that was that. I was doing some at Leeds, doing a bit of teaching down there, and that really blew sort of my mind into how, obviously, like training and sort of like how colleges ran. I was in like a big operation.
Yeah.
However,
Opened your eyes quite a bit.
yeah,
Just to
I've
see
never,
how
I've never,
different things worked.
yeah. Like say they've got like curriculum manager. They've got managers for everything. I think in there. To be fair, they've got managers on managers. However, like
That's where all the money's going then.
yeah, well, there's a lot to be said for that, isn't there? But like, yeah, but anyway, working in there, I sort of understand why, because there's a lot of paperwork to go with it.
It's
however.
almost like a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross.
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
It's like there's a lot to be done off the back. There's the teaching, but then there's the actual backing up that up with evidence and recording and documenting everything.
Yeah, it's an absolute. It's a bit of a minefield, to be fair. And how do you get somebody from roofing, construction, however, to do teaching, because we've got skills shortage, however.
And how have you found that, like that swap over? Is that something you would go into full time if you could? Or?
I don't know, like, because obviously now we've got, obviously, from that, however, I was doing that with one eye on, obviously, potentially maybe, doing that full time, packing the business in at the time. But anyway, in the meantime, the head of construction left at Redcar College, and then anyway, they got somebody in and they started running a course there, and I thought, oh great, I'm gonna just keep on going with roofing or whatever, because that's what I know, or whatever. And I thought, well, like, so anyway, sort of like, to be fair, I was doing that part time, and to be fair, like, it sort of come to a point where they weren't really giving us a set at Leeds, whether they weren't, like, obviously I was running a business at the same time, and that was my main income, however, it was like something that I was like sort of contemplating, however, and like sort of like giving a bit of experience into thinking, oh, do I go down that route? Because and I was having a look at, like, what master roofers were doing down in Salford or whatever, and I was like thinking, oh, we could actually do that in something in Teesside. So I sort of had like one eye on that, and like say the curriculum manager there didn't really give me any sort of set time or whatever. So anyway, I left there. Redcar got their up and running with their program there, and then I was sending two lads there, wherever. The guy that was running the course only did it for maybe about 4 or 5 months or whatever, and then left. It turned out that, like, he wasn't from roofing background, and he was a bricklayer.
Oh, man.
And
so there's a real shortage in the trainers and the assessors as well, though, isn't there?
Yeah, massive. I don't know how they get over that, because, like, I sort of understand it from sort of so I have quite a big, like, with my lads going there, and I really want to grow the business, and like, they didn't have a trainer in there, and I was like thinking, well, I'll just do this myself or whatever. And like, say they're paying me on, like, on a self-employed business through my, like, my own personal business. I'm not, like, I'm basically subby to him or whatever, and hopefully we'll try and build up that sort of cohort of apprentices in Teesside, from all different routes. Like, it's not just going to benefit me; it's going to benefit all the roofing industry in our local area. And it's starting to take off. And like say, I don't like say, do I see me doing this full time? Like, probably not, but at least I could probably mentor somebody into doing that now. And luckily for me, like, I'm quite vocal on, like, all the social media, and I'm quite heavily, like, sort of, chatting to all different tutors or whatever. Then FRC actually run, National Federation of Roofing Contractors run a tutor forum now, which is a good idea, because, how does somebody, how does a new college get, like, basically Redcar College had no like you say, we've got that sorted now, but like, you know, somebody coming in there as not a teacher as such, however, is coming in there with no like PowerPoint presentations or anything. So they've got to build all that. However, so I understand.
And would you promote it as a career show, like maybe a roofer looking to like sort of come off the tools? It would be a good way for them to go over.
Yeah, I definitely think. I would definitely say it's an eye opener.
And if these, like, sometimes you do find that like roofers can potentially have like dyslexia or things like that. They're great with their hands. Like, would you just tell them to be open minded to that and go over and like they'll probably be able to self teach and learn what they need to learn on that basis?
Yeah, well, there's different teachings.
It shouldn't hold you back, should it?
No,
really?
it's just. I would say it's just different teaching styles.
Yeah.
Luckily, I came across a really good guy who was a safeguarding officer at Leeds, and he had dyslexia there. And I would say it's probably just his teaching style. You know, he wouldn't do his. You know, he wouldn't be writing stuff down on a board as such, however. Like, he would be telling stories about, you know, he would have like he would have like a PowerPoint presentation. If it's got to do feet, like it's tending to what I do now. However, so if I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation, however, I'd be just talking about my experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to connect
Using
with people.
Like analogies and metaphors and kind of getting them to visualise it by storytelling almost.
Yeah, definitely. Because like say, I've got 17 years experience in roofing, of running my own company, of working for somebody, and we've worked on a range of, like, having the business now, however, we've worked for MOD, we've worked on the NHS, actually did a COVID hospital during COVID, which was a highlight. We've worked on a police station, we've worked, like, you know, all over the country. However, I'm able to draw down on that experience and give that over, you know, to somebody, whoever, like, well, to the students. And I think that's invaluable. You like say, and I suppose that's my teaching sort of style, however, and you know, other people have different ways of doing it, however, and but I feel a way that it connects with people.
It works.
Yeah, and the lads have, you know, they've enjoyed it and they said it's good.
See when you said like you hit that kind of like dark period where you were like a bit depressed and things like that. Like, what pulled you out of that? Like, did you find?
I would say, like, well, my partner, Molly, she's actually, like, she works in mental health as well, so that
Always helps.
that always helps, definitely.
Having a therapist on hand. Almost.
Yeah. So she does occupational therapy. So and during that period as well, I've got to even mention this. However, I snapped my ACL as well. So it was a bit of, like, you know, I wasn't able to get on the tools either as such. However,
so there wouldn't have been much of a release from it.
No. So so that was that as well. So
do you think the teaching side maybe give you like a bit of extra purpose to pull you through that potential? Sometimes with depression and stuff, we just get a bit lost.
Yeah, I think it did, because, like, you know, it sort of gave me a bit more of a purpose. However, to think, like, you know, what's this all about?
Yeah.
However, like, why am I doing
this?
I think every business owner has gone through that. Says, why am I just doing this? Why don't I just get a job? Yeah. However, because at that moment in time, like the business wasn't doing so well, however. Literally, I could have just got a job, however, and it'd be paying the same amount, however. And you're thinking, why am I bothering doing all this, however? But and then when I think it's literally, I said to myself, like, if we don't get something sorted in, like, our own time, I'll just pack it all in and I'll just go do something.
Yeah.
And I'll either go, like, I'll stay in roofing, or I'll just, you know, I think the thing is, when people are coming into apprentices, they don't realise what they can, you know, you could go down teaching, assessing as well. You know, they're crying out for endpoint assessors, for roofing assessors. You
could travel the world.
Yeah, like, travel the world.
Literally do anything.
Yeah.
Become a podcaster.
Yeah. Yeah, you could literally do anything. Like say you could, like, there's all the technical sort of roles, isn't there? Wherever, if you want to go down that, you can work for manufacturers, or whatever, because they're crying out for people that have been on the tools as well.
Yeah.
You'll have spoke to a manufacturer and like you're thinking, oh, God, who have I spoke to here?
Yeah.
However, like I've just spoke to somebody.
Because they can't get the experienced roofing background people in, basically.
Yeah.
So they're just trying their best, like a lot of us are, I guess.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
it's I think it all comes back to shortage though, really, because if there wasn't a shortage, then there would be more progressive pathways because people would be able to move into the pathways faster. Like as an example, like we've got contracts managers, estimator, like surveying estimators, contract supervisors, like those types of roles. But that means we need to then take an experienced roofer out of the pool of roofers that we've got and sort of then move over to this kind of hybrid role that they can sort of transition over to it. But then when they get over, they're now not on the tools. So you've now got to find, like, backfill them, which catch 22 sometimes.
Yeah, it is. So my manager now, like say, he's come from university. He hasn't come from, like say, his background was, he was actually a swimming instructor or whatever. Because obviously I couldn't draw people from my team because I'm trying to build that roofing team up or whatever. But I also wanted, like, to build a management team as well, or whatever, and an estimator. And like say, yeah, so like it's kind of funny. So like obviously I brought him in as a manager or whatever. Like I give him, like, basically, he was doing a hands-on experience, like working as a labourer with a roofer on myself. So he was doing all that. He also did the Institute of Roofing, management course or whatever. That was really good. But he's been, like, I would say he's been a godsend for our business or whatever. Like, but he's really like dived into it with feet first into. Like, we've chucked him on loads of training course. Like, he's done. I couldn't believe when I looked at, like, when we were doing his appraisals, and stuff like that, and I was like, "You've done all this." I was like, "How have you fitted all?" Like, literally, he's done. Oh yeah, like loads of leadership courses, loads of management courses, estimating, you name it, and like he's done it in, like, how long has he been working with us now? 3 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, he's estimating jobs now that are, 20, 30 grand or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like, partly myself, mentoring him into that role or whatever. But it just shows you that, like, you can come from a different background. But he came from, like, he had a university degree and all that as well. So it just shows you that the people that we've got working for us now have come from all sorts of, like, backgrounds. Like, say, one of the lads was a driller, working away offshore. He came, he's got a young family at home, was wanting to a job, like at home, and like we took him on as a labourer. Reg College, obviously, we've got that thing there now, or whatever, and it's on our doorstep. So that's also, we've been on our doorstep, and it's like a day a week, or if it's been able to, it's opened a door for somebody that wouldn't have been there. Which is great. Like, that's another. There's another roofer into the industry, or whatever, that realistically, like, wasn't gonna be there. Whether he could have gone, down some other route, or whatever. And like I say, he's took to it like a duck to water.
And that's where you've got to be, like, quite resourceful again. It's looking out with the industry. How can you bring people in and upskill them and train them and mentor them, like you said, as well, so that they can come in and like beef things up, I guess, and allow you not to probably steal too much from your actual pool of roofers, because it's really difficult. The more we take them away from that, then the less they can teach the younger people in your business and the apprentices and things. It can be really quite difficult, really.
Yeah, so Nathan, I've mentioned dropped his name there, haven't I? So Nathan, Nathan is like, I think this is like, when so now you can actually do an apprenticeship, like within a year, like you can finish an apprenticeship in a year,
Yeah.
whatever, and like I say, it's over a 2 year period, but like you've got, I think what people don't understand, however, with apprenticeships, you've got people at different levels coming into the industry. You've got people coming from, like, obviously, you've got a 30-year-old, and you could have a 16-year-old from a school leaver, and like them doing the same course, and you don't want to drag that experienced person through 2 years for the sake of it. Especially when they're coming to the end, if like literally they've done all the practical stuff that you could possibly do in a college, like there's no more left there to do, however. So like, he's raced through it, he's practicing, he's like learning himself, outside of obviously the college work. He's doing so I think when people say, and I see that on LinkedIn, of going, oh, they've shortened it down to 12 months, whatever. Well,
it can work for some people, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah,
don't tar everyone with the exact same brush.
And
some people will need maybe 4 years. Like a 16-year-old probably, I would argue, probably does.
Definitely.
Unless they've been quite fortunate, a bit like yourself, or even like my background was, I'd worked a lot before I got to 16. So like I'd done stuff at weekends, summer jobs. Like I would really knew how to be hands-on. And so like when I started my apprenticeship, like I knew how to pick up a hammer and hammer a nail in straight away from day one. I knew how to like measure something. I knew how to cut a bit of material. Whereas some people, they come in and they've never even done any of that.
Yeah, so leads back to Leeds, however, and there's a bit of a story, like say, obviously they've got I think when I was teaching there, like say it was like the second week in, and we were doing practical, like basically a verge to verge, and you've got the, like say, you'll show them, the first day you'll show them how to, obviously, you'll do a demonstration.
Yeah.
And then and then they'll go in off with, the paper with a step-by-step guide, through it all. And then basically you've got people there that have like pretty much completed it. And then you've got I remember a lad there that couldn't, literally, he was looking at the tape measure and didn't understand like the metrics of it on there, and it's like that's quite hard to, I didn't think that obviously when I would be doing that it was a bit of an eye opener that like he didn't know where, I don't know, for instance, like I don't know, 320 mil was on the tape measure, like that wasn't.
He didn't know how to find that, like he would just
didn't
know how to read the measuring tape, basically.
Yeah, basically, which is like, you
wouldn't expect people to be starting that far behind on the journey, probably.
But like, I don't know, like obviously I'm not gonna
and new thing, like the new way that things are, just in terms of like distraction all the time, and maybe just a lack of it in school as well. Like I think a lot of CDT classes and things have all come away now, and there's no as much of that actually happening.
Yeah, it would, like from a school perspective, it would be good to actually see, like when you pick some sort of category or whatever, you pick in like a multi-skill or whatever, where school leavers are going into doing, they're doing a bit of bricklaying, they're doing a bit of plastering, however,
even just measuring some things.
Yeah, measuring stuff.
A bit of painting even wouldn't be bad,
like because that's not even like, even if you don't come into a trade, however, that's going to be helpful through your life, isn't it? However, definitely. when you get your first house, or whatever, like say, it's got to be helpful, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think people have got to to understand that obviously you've got, you know, apprenticeship, like, yeah, for that lad there, or whatever, you know, it will take, like, you know, they'll get him to a point where he'll qualify or whatever. I don't know what happened in that particular that case or whatever, but like, you know, it'll take him 5 years,
Yeah.
however, even though that is, yeah, he may be qualified, but he'll still need like supervising.
Yeah.
To like, it'll take you 5 years to gain that experience, however. But like, you know, you've got on day one, you could have like some lad that's worked with his dad or whatever, and he, like, honestly, I looked at one of the lads or whatever, and he was putting ridge tiles on it, and like, and I was thinking, bloody hell, he's definitely done that before.
Yeah.
Like, they were mint. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I couldn't say a bad thing about him or whatever, and like, and I'm, you know, so apprenticeship does, you know, you've definitely got, you know, it suits people for where they are, and I think when people are on about extending it, however, to, you know, I don't, like you were saying in Scotland, they were doing 4 years or whatever.
So our traditional apprenticeship up here is 4 years, yeah. So you go to college in the first 2 years. There used to be a third year, which was an advanced craft, but they stripped that back, which was a bit of a shame actually, because you would do more traditional heritage type stuff there, like slating turrets and like that type of thing. Whereas but we've also got the MVQ level 2 up here as well, which you got. That is that your main qualification?
Yeah, so it's not gonna. So a college could run an MVQ with it, but it's called a well, basically a standard, a level 2 standard or whatever, basically.
Right.
But yeah.
So like that kind of that one exists up here as well, but that doesn't really come with training as such. So with that one, it's more on-site assessment. So that tends to be where we use that is for maybe like guys that they've no came in and started an apprenticeship at like 16, 17, but they've sort of maybe had some other jobs, and then they've came in and they're maybe like 18, 19, 20, and they're like, look, I want a trade, I don't want to go back to college, what can I do? And that's probably the best option for them. So I think that's a good route. I think they got up to 2 years to complete that, but they could do that, like you said, they could probably get through it in a year if they really pushed hard and wanted to. But my issue with that is just that where's the training come from? So we need to sort of do that in-house and do a bit of training in-house, which is difficult to deliver, if I'm honest. Just like resources and getting the time to do it, having someone to train them, like it's no easy. Yeah. So I'd like to see that bit like added to. But I think that would be a good way to go is getting those who's ready through it in 2 years. And produce. I think you could produce good roofers in 2 years, and then the experience just needs to keep coming after that. Like even at 5, 6 years, 10 years, you're still learning. You're still
learning every day.
Roofing is like an infinite skill that keeps evolving and changing.
I think, from obviously going into a level 2 or whatever, like it is the Bobby basics of roofing that's getting taught.
Yeah.
And that suits some companies.
Yeah.
I think obviously the level 3, and obviously this is why the level 3 doesn't run anymore, is because one, obviously most companies now, you know, there's not many heritage companies, whatever, house builders, and I think this is one of the reasons, like, you know, house builders, like some of the roofs are, like, you know, they're basic and uninspiring.
Yeah.
Like,
which makes sense for what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, it does make sense that, you know, it's almost like a cookie cutter kind of model. Like, we'll have X amount of house types. Let's just get these rattled out as quick as we can. They will say that there's an element of quality there, but it's not like the quality seems to be diminishing the more that, the more the demand is for these houses, and they're trying to get them built faster and faster and faster to keep up with that demand.
Are they though?
What?
Do you think they actually are trying to
build them quicker?
So anyway, off piece here, I guess. But there was an article. There was Barrett Holmes, or whatever, and it was in like our local paper, and it was like, oh yeah, they've took on 5 apprentices, however.
Yeah.
Like 5 apprentices. Right. So
Massive.
the Barrett Homes have got, I think, I don't quote me on the figures, but I think they've got about 6,000 employees. However, if you said if it's in the northeast, our area, say they've got divided that up, say it's maybe 400 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not even 1%
Yeah.
of they're taking on 5 apprentices in a national skills shortage,
Yeah.
and the government's
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah. They're just relying
build
on subcontractors, though, aren't they?
But and then like obviously they're relying on subcontractors, and the subcontractors.
And they just want them to train the guys, and then they'll just use them.
But subcontractors won't because any business, especially you'll struggle to find do an apprenticeship model on if you're solely working for house builders.
Yeah.
Because the margins just aren't there.
Yeah.
However,
it's so tight you can't get trained properly.
Yeah, I think some of the big sort of businesses, roofing businesses, are probably getting smaller in our area.
Mm-hmm.
I think so, because they haven't got the margins there to actually train people. I don't think there's some companies out there that are training people, but some that are just not.
Yeah.
However, and I don't think there's a lot of I think it's disappointing to see whoever when you see the likes of a house builder or whatever, and the taking we've got 3 apprentices, they've got 5. How's that even a story?
Yeah.
They should be taking on it should be a story.
Hundreds, probably.
Yeah, 50. You've got the government saying we want to build houses, however, more houses, however. If I was a house builder, I'd be going, I want to take on as many apprentices as possible, however, because the government wants to build.
Yep.
They're releasing all. So I'm thinking, well, are they actually wanting to build more houses or not?
I think they do, but I don't think they want to do it with that model. I think they want guys like you who's already trained your guys to come in and do it on a tight margin and just get it done.
Yeah,
is probably the reality.
Yeah.
I don't think they're really too keen on having to do the actual hard work because they don't employ many people. I don't think.
No, they don't. It is literally reliant on subcontractors, and obviously the subcontractors are they've got the thumb, haven't they, and pressing it down on their head and going, do this for as least money as possible, however, and then
force some security.
And then you've got your employees going, we want as much money as possible. So, I wouldn't want to be a business that focuses on that sector of house building, because I think you're just getting squeezed the life out of, and you've got to be a high turnover business, however, or you've got to be buying, the material straight from the manufacturer or whatever, which is
like 1% margins or something like that sometimes.
We priced up one or whatever, and we were 150 grand out or whatever, and I'm not the type of person that I'll just I don't want to. I don't it's kind of this is the thing with house builders or whatever, I guess, is I suppose we were 150 grand out or whatever, but we were working to margins of 20% or whatever. And I presume I don't know, I was looking at the maths or whatever of it, and I'm presuming that obviously whoever's won that work is not making any money on the materials. They're just literally putting that in for cost materials or whatever. And if they are making a margin, it's on the labour. So I think
it's a race to the bottom, that one.
I think
can't train people on that model, probably. Well, not for us. Maybe potentially for the bigger outfits. I don't know if they leave a wee bit in there for training, but
I don't think they do though. Do they? I haven't seen. I'll be honest with you, because we've got some big roofing companies in our area, and I just think, obviously they've got the health and safety factor, however, do they really want to be taking on, a young lad, however, CCS cards as well? That's a hard, to go on site in the first place, however, you can't just take a young lad on, however, they've got to do the CCS cards, however, so could there be a bit of lenience there, potentially, of trying to, giving somebody maybe a month or whatever of because because you know you're putting somebody on CCS card or whatever, and you know they might not even hack it or whatever. You know
So
they
it's a
might.
bit of a barrier. They might just not even do it, so that
Yeah. So
because they're not too sure if they're going
that's
to stick it out.
that's a problem, and then obviously a couple of the other barriers. Like I say, I don't think that this the problem with obviously the skills gap. I think a lot of it is to do with like the employing of people or whatever. I think I think knowing what I know and working in a college or whatever, I think the people are there. Like you know, you've got full time like at Redcar College, you've got 150 full time students, or whatever, that are crying out for a job.
Yeah,
However, and yeah, you've got to you'll find some real golden eggs, you know, in that amount of people or whatever. So I actually think a lot of it's just to do with like health and safety, and then probably like HR, and then obviously apprenticeship wages going up or whatever. I don't think that was. I think obviously, like say, it's a bit of a. It's like the
another barrier, really, isn't it?
I think
it makes it harder for the businesses. It's probably good for the apprentices wanting to come in because they're getting paid a bit more. But the business, I think it's shut a lot of businesses out. Like especially in Scotland, I don't know how you guys are getting on south of the border, but in Scotland, like most roofing companies I've been speaking to, they're just not taking apprentices on now. Which that's had the negative effect, but absolutely. I think we've got 3 coming on board this year. So, like we're our like out in the tools, we've probably got 30 or so. So like it's 3 apprentices is probably not a bad return on the amount of roofers that we've got. But I think that like we're just doing that because I actually just believe in the industry a bit. I like giving the chances back. I know that I got that chance, and I always like to try and do that every year if I can. We always take 1 or 2 on, this year 3. But I think there was one point where we were maybe doing like four. Like it has diminished massively.
Yeah, I think I like say that's a way to go, because I think inevitably you will have people like leave. You know, they'll maybe start up, or you know they'll get a chance elsewhere. Because you have to think that all the other businesses that aren't training anybody now are desperate.
They just need to poach them for a wee bit more money. That's their model.
So I seen you put something up about that, or whatever, of like poaching people from other companies, and I'm like thinking like, what sort of environment are you going to get into doing that? However, like, I'll pay. Like, to be fair, I always think it's hard to entice somebody away from a company. However, like, if they have done an apprenticeship with you, I feel as if like probably people have got a bit of an allegiance to you as long as you look after them.
I think there is a bit of loyalty for sure.
Yeah, but like what sort of model is that? If you're saying I'm not going to take on any apprentices and not training anybody, but then you've got an aging workforce, like where are you expecting to get people from?
Yeah, just scraping them from other people.
Well, they're not like say. We haven't grown as well, because as one of the other things as well is like we won't take on somebody like a bricklayer and like getting them to do a roof or whatever, you know what I mean? And like usually they're a failed bricklayer or a failed joiner or whatever. Like some companies do operate like that. We haven't decided to, we look at that and we think, no, that's not something that I wanted to do. Like,
I wonder if they could be upskilled, if you maybe did it in the right way, but you can't just be saying, right, you were a brickie there, it's not worked out, now you're a roofer, just get on with it. Like, I think if you were kind of putting them through the right, if you put them through the MVQ
possibly. These people out there that, like, joinery is like quite a hard trade, I think, whatever, like there's quite a lot of, you do see a lot of like joiners or whatever, and you probably, that they've got a qualification or whatever, but like they haven't quite made it as a joiner, and like they'll maybe they'll give roofing a go and they'll come in as a labourer, maybe, and then you could train them from that point of view. But I do think there's a lot of people that are just sending people out as a joiner and going, crack on then.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't know.
I've seen everything, to be honest. So,
I do feel there's a lot of that goes on within within the roofing industry or whatever. Yeah. So.
Well, that was quite good, mate. That was covered plenty. What's sort of next on the cards for you? What's coming up? How would we wrap this up?
So next on the card for us is we're just gonna continue to grow and push through, all the barriers. Like I say, we've got a good link with the college now. We're starting to see a lot of growth and development. We're stepping into the public sector work, and we're winning some of that work now as well, which is coming in from a residential kind of background and stepping into that public sector work. So like I say, we're sponsoring Middlesbrough Football Club, which trying to professionalise ourselves above what's out there at the minute. However, we just see that as a thing. We're not trying to go down the sort of checker tradey sort of route, whether we're trying to organically grow the company or
just
whether
keep
without
pushing the kind of the profile of the business.
And like you say, the profile in the social media, I guess. I'll continue to teach at Redcar College, and I'll try and push roofing, to the next level. Hopefully they'll take on a full-time member of staff there, and Ryan there as well, our manager. He's chairman of North East Roof Training Group now as well. So we're as a business, we're heavily invested in training the future workforce. So
good, man. Keep up the good work. Thanks for coming on, and I'll keep in touch with you, mate. Good stuff, mate. Brilliant. Well, guys, thank you for watching to the end of this episode. As always, remember to subscribe and leave a comment down below to let us know what you thought. I'll see you on the next one.